Welcome to KRA's The Hub, the official podcast of KRA Corporation. And now get ready to hear workforce topics and trends you need to know on the go.
Welcome to Voices from the 2026 NAWB Forum, brought to you by KRA Corporation. Recorded live in Las Vegas, this is a series that captures real conversations with workforce leaders from across the country, all centered around this year's theme: Ignite, Innovate, and Impact. In this episode, we're featuring Denise Reading, Anthony Murphy, and Anthony Gagliano, all highlighting insights, challenges, and real-world strategies that are shaping the workforce system of today. These are voices directly from the industry, sharing what's working, what's challenging, and where we're going from here. Now let's get into today's episode. Welcome to KRA's The Hub podcast. This is Jonathan Overall, the host of The Hub. We are here live at the 2026 NAWB Forum here in Las Vegas, Nevada, in NAWBtown on the floor, a place that's full of energy and excitement. A lot of insights that have been already shared here at the event. And I'm here with Denise Reading. She is the CEO of Future Plans. Denise, welcome to The Hub.
Thank you. Really glad to be here.
So how's your experience been thus far? I think it's your first time being at the forum.
Yeah, it's my first time, and it's interesting. This is the season of workforce meetings, so I have a lot to compare to, right? So I was at a meeting last week at South by Southwest .edu, and now I'm at this, and they're different, and they're the same. People are talking about the same critical issues. How is AI going to change what we do in work, and how we help people prepare for work? How are we still dealing with issues like poverty over how many decades, right? Some of the things that aren't answered. But I find that this is really beneficial because it's a different perspective. It comes from the government, the workforce boards, the people who are really in the trenches.
Tell us more about your organization and what you all do.
So Future Plans is a nonprofit that is committed to eradicating poverty. And what we believe is that you eradicate poverty one person at a time. And so if we can help every individual find their greatness through assessment and coaching, and then work with the community to help those individuals explore and discover, prepare, and be placed, but we're more likely to move people along that line. You know, the only way out of poverty is a good job that pays well. We think all kinds of things, but you got to have a good job that pays well. And we work in this grassroots community process all across rural areas. And we believe that if you listen to the people who live in those communities, those people who are living with the challenges of poverty and the barriers, that they have ideas. And if we listen to their ideas about how to overcome those barriers and empower them with the support they need, that they in fact will change the culture of their community and remove those barriers for the future. So when we say eradicate, we mean not a little bit of today, but we mean forever.
That's a key. I hear that a lot around human-centered design.
Yes.
The customer's approach and their needs in mind as we design programs and solutions. And you also are going to be presenting today here at NAWB. Tell us a little bit, a snapshot, a teaser trailer of what your presentation is going to be about and the focus that's going to be presented.
So our process is going to be very interactive. One of the things people keep asking us is how have we been able to build this grassroots coalition of folks and touch almost 36,000 people in 5 years in this process? How have we been able to get everybody to the table? And one of the things that we know is that there's a point of stress and pain where the community says enough already. And if you're there in that moment and willing to really listen, then that's the moment when you can say, okay, who else feels like you feel? Who should be at the table? Who isn't going to come to the table, but we really need them? And so we're going to help people do that initial action because we believe that that's the biggest issue. People are afraid to act because they've never been given permission to act. And so we want to empower people who come to our session today to say, here's how we started. 4 people in one county, 4 most opioid addicted, lost their last employer the day I came. A month later, there were 12. A month later, there were 72. 4 months later, we had kicked off this program that's now in 50 counties of Ohio. And it's that one, how do you know how to start? And we're going to take people through that process. We're going to actually have them do the work in the meeting and talk about what doesn't work, what works, because people need to know the good, the bad, the ugly. This is not for the weak of heart.
What is your approach in aligning with workforce development and the systems of the local region? That's not an easy undertaking, but how have you found success in aligning, and what is your approach?
So we are fortunate that we've been funded by the state of Ohio in a line item in the budget. But our whole model is about grassroots. And the very first thing that happened when I went to Appalachia and people asked me to come and talk to them about what they could do is folks said, we want a better life for our kids. We want them to have a choice to live here or leave here because there's opportunity. And you cannot look at workforce opportunity without one of the workforce boards. And in our case, Ohio Means Jobs. And they get the federal funding that allows certain things to happen. But it's not always just enough, or somebody might just be making $500 too much to qualify. So we said, what if we could braid those dollars? What if we could cross-train each other? Who else should be at the table with us? So the workforce boards are a catalyst. And the head of the ODJFS, where workforce sits in Ohio, he said after our first 24 months that $1 of workforce dollars tied to $1 of our project we call GRIP, it's $5 in impact. He wasn't being figurative. He did the measurements, right? And by doing this work together, we helped workforce boards perform at a 14% higher rate for unemployed, never employed, at a 25% higher rate of placement for those who were displaced or laid off. And so we've seen real growth. And also, it's helped the workforce boards not be isolated and siloed. They're in the schools, they're in the churches, they're in the community center in a way that they had historically not been. So they're like, we're like brother and sister. That, because we go together. Wherever we go together.
I love that, especially the conversation around demonstrating the ROI, demonstrating the impact. I know data has been a strong theme at this conference.
Yes.
And not just the existence of data. That's great. But then the question is, how do we use data to make informed decisions? How do we use data to tell the story of the impact that we're having in communities? And so it sounds like you and your organization, along with the state in Ohio and workforce, are able to tell that story of the impact that you're seeing.
Absolutely. When we founded Future Plans, we said the last thing the world needs is another nonprofit. So if we're going to do this work, we need to be able to measure that we're doing something that is impactful. And we're not saying we'd like to manage poverty. We want to eradicate it. Well, how can you prove that that has happened? So you've got to measure that, right? And so we really look at what the state has invested, and we say, so what is that investment worth to the state? Well, you can look at it at raw numbers. And in our case, we were able to show the state just 3,000 of 26,000 people we helped gave the state a 522% return on investment. That's pretty shocking. In a tight budget year where most states lost money for things like this, we were one of those entities that was funded because the state said, we've never had anybody else come back and tell us this. But there's another way to look at that same data. And it's to say, we have this 5-step process. We do youth, adults, people in reentry, recovery. What happens between coaching and discovery? Is what happens if you do this type of discovery versus this type? Is there something better than? Because school systems and communities, maybe they can't afford to do 5 different things to discover manufacturing. So which ones make the greatest impact? So then it tells us how to spend our dollars in a wiser way. And so it says, which one worked best? And, we had folks who were doing great discovery events. I'd say, well, which one works best? They didn't know. So I'm like, okay, let's find out. Let's do a little pre and post test. This is simple. And so sometimes we get overwhelmed by collecting data, but really did something improve, right? Can we measure what improved? What looks different? What has changed?
I asked you about your first experience here at NAWB earlier, but have there been any insightful moments, aha moments that you've experienced thus far, just being in the room with general sessions, the workshops that you've been a part of thus far?
I had a great experience yesterday afternoon. I came to a workshop that was around the work that had been done with the Native people of Nevada, some 20 plus tribal entities. And as they were talking about how the workforce board had to kind of break down barriers of trust and relationships, I thought how aligned that was with the work we did in Appalachia. Rural Appalachia also has questions about trust and who to work with and what are the, who are the entities that hold the power, and to understand that. But what was the same in both was that idea that you talked about just a few minutes ago. What did the people think should happen? And can we make what it is we know is helpful work for what the people think? Or can they teach us something new? I said to the folks yesterday, I really would like to share how valuable it is to build grassroots coalitions and to really listen to people come up with solutions. Because people will come up with things that funders and others will be like, that's crazy, that'll never work. And 6 months later, we've broken 4 generations of poverty. But people would say, that's nuts. But we've done it. They're doing it there. We're doing it over here in Appalachia. Somebody else is doing it probably in another community. And I think those stories need to be shared. And hearing them talk was reminding me that ours is not unique to being rural. It is common to being human.
That's why I love national events like this, because you get a collection and a gathering of people from all over the country. And I had an opportunity to interview Thurman Roberts, who was part of that team yesterday, and just realizing, from the rural areas to the urban to the areas where we have metropolitan cities and different types of industry, we see how diverse our country is, but the common issues that aren't much different from other parts of the country. So exciting things. And thank you for sharing your insights there. Lastly, I've been asking the question, what does Ignite, Innovate, and Impact, the theme of this conference that's been threaded into all of the sessions, the general and the plenary sessions, what does that mean to you, your organization, and what do you look forward to taking back to the work that you're doing?
I think it's the perfect way of even describing who we are. You have to ignite a community. A community has to decide enough is enough, and they have to get their own spirit up on a fight, the good fight, right? That's the first thing. And then they have to innovate new solutions. If it were easy, somebody would have already done it. So people have to think out of the box. They have to think about what is the real root cause of what's going on here. So how do we innovate? How do we then implement and make this work? And so when we look at what's going on out there that's working in workforce, this pattern, this is the pattern, right? And so it's not just a really cool set of words. It's actually a process that if we all followed it more often, we'd see greater results. And so to me, this made it very authentic to be here. We're here in Las Vegas, a place of not that much authenticity, if I might say, where this very authentic conversation is happening. And so I thought that was pretty exciting.
That's wonderful to hear. Well, I want to thank you for joining us here. For those listening, how can they find out more about future plans?
Yes, please look at futureplans.com or go to ohio.com. .org on both of those. I guess I got my time zones mixed up here in my mind. So futureplans.org or gridohio.org, and they can learn more about what we're doing and the work we're doing and how they might be able to help. We're always looking for people who want to be part.
Thank you for the work that you're doing, Denise, and I look forward to hearing more how the work is growing in influence and impact in Ohio as well as North Appalachia, and the work that you all are doing, partnering with workforce development to bring change. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Welcome back to KRA's The Hub podcast. This is the host of The Hub, Jonathan Overall. We are live here in Las Vegas, Nevada at the 2026 NAWB Forum. It's been a wonderful event here in Las Vegas, the first year out of Washington, D.C., and Vegas has been a great host thus far. We've had many great general sessions, workshop sessions, and I've had an opportunity to have great conversations with many of the leaders that are in the room, workshop presenters here at the Hub podcast zone. And I'm here right now with Anthony Murphy. He is the CEO of Lead the Way Learning Academy in Columbus, Ohio. Anthony, welcome to the Hub.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
So this is your first experience at NAWB. What are your first thoughts about the event?
Amazing event. The size of it, the way it was ran and structured. I go to a lot of conferences. It was amazing. So many different people from so many different backgrounds. I know we talked about this a little bit earlier. Connecting with people from California, people from Hawaii. Hearing a lot of the reentry work during the general session, the launch was inspiring because for us in Franklin County, I think there's a missing piece for the juvenile reentry piece. And hearing about the training that the young people are receiving and the training that the adults are receiving is inspiring to me to kind of go back and maybe make that an arm of what we do. Right now, Lead the Way doesn't step into that. We're in high schools, we work with high school age students, but there is a need. Sometimes our young people maybe make a mistake or two, and they just need that opportunity, that training to get them an opportunity to make an income and make a positive impact on the community.
So give us an overview. Tell us your journey to this point in your career, becoming the CEO of Lead the Way. How did you end up in this role? And kind of build off of that and tell us what's unique about your region and who you serve.
So I'll kind of start way back. The summer of my freshman year, I was a TANF eligible youth. So TANF, a temporary assistance for needy families, for those who don't know. And I got a job cleaning up neighborhoods on the south side of Columbus. I made $8 an hour back then. It was a big deal. I was able to buy my own shoes for school. Normally we got one pair of shoes in our household, and if you outgrew them or you scuffed them up, or there's been a year where I put a hole in the bottom of them, that was your pair of shoes. And so to be able to buy my own pair of shoes, and I bought 2 pair that summer, was a big deal, and it ignited something in me, right? And so we serve TANF eligible youth now. And the opportunity is what a lot of young people need to learn that piece. And so Lead the Way Learning Academy started in 2004 by Miss Jackie Kemp. Retired military. She did the work out of a passion of her heart, didn't need it. 21 years retired. She had plenty of income outside of Lead the Way. And she built this thing up. And so 5 years ago, right after COVID, I was contracted as an employer. I worked in the media space. I did video, and I was contracted to do a documentary of COVID. So she goes, how can we do a documentary without students having to be present? I said, well, we can use Zoom. We can use Google Meet or Google Drive to upload the documents and video. And then we went to Amazon and purchased video kits for the young people to be able to go out and film. So they were able to film in their community. There's one really cool video where the young person filmed himself getting the swab where they kind of go all the way up to your brain when they used to first do it. And so we got that. It was great. She came to me, said, I have a program manager position open. Never thought of myself working nonprofit. I recently went back to school and got my master's in educational leadership, was coaching football, and thought I was going to go on to be an administrator. But she explained it to me, saw something in me I kind of didn't see in myself, and brought me in and went from program manager to 6 months director of operations. And then the last 2.5 years, I've been in the role of CEO after she stepped down, but she's still around today. Great mentor, great friend. And so that's how Lead the Way started. And so for me, the passion is I know what opportunity can do for young people. And even myself, this is my first time in Las Vegas. My first flight, I was 33 years old, just because it wasn't something I was exposed to. I'm working with the airline now to where they have open seats to fly students out, just to get them on their first flight to get that nerves out of the way. So those are some of the things I'm realizing. Opportunity is everything.
Great story. Thank you for sharing that. It's exciting to see how you bring your story and your passion to the work of leading an organization. And no surprise why you were able to ascend to that role in this time. Tell us about the population, the area, the region. What makes it unique? What are some of the challenges in serving the youth in that region of Columbus?
Columbus is unique. It's the capital city. So we've got a great police chief. So crime is down. The murder rate is down. But among our young people, if you go to a school and ask a question, how many of you know someone that's been shot? Everybody's going to raise their hand. And that's kind of an alarming thing for me to see. And so we're talking about trauma, we're talking about mental health and people's wellness. So you throw that in there with growing up in poverty and not having opportunities. It's like, what do I do? And Columbus is one of those cities where you've got the inner city, and we've got schools in the inner city, but then you have the suburbs. But even in the suburbs, there's kids from the inner city that move into apartment complexes and things of that nature. So we serve a diverse population. But our main thing is exposure and experiences. And so we partner with different organizations. We take kids on bus tours with the student stakeholders. So we take kids to Atlanta, DC, Chicago. Not only are they visiting colleges there, they're getting the full experience. We think it's a professional sporting event. they do a passion project, whether it's at the local food bank, and really kind of open their mind to new opportunities. And then locally, we partner with different training providers like independent electrical contractors, performance automotive, VIP Medical Academy to do different training. But not only do they do the training, they have employment afterwards. And so really creating pipelines and connections is what we do, and it's school age population. So we've been very successful. Our graduation rate is 97%, and then our placement within 1 year of graduation of high school is 80 to 88%, depending on the year. And that's because we have great workforce development board that's higher. We have our funder, Franklin County Jobs and Family Services, believes in us, funds us, works with us. And also we have a very strong local chamber of commerce. We have something called Experience Columbus that helps small businesses get exposure and opportunities. It's just a great place to be, and it's a great place to be successful because there's so many partners willing to come to the table. And being here at NAWB really showed me how other areas are doing the same thing. And so it just inspires me to do more and get more involved because I don't see too many people at my level here. And so it's really, it's more high level than what I do. And so it's inspiring to get involved in that next, hope my region improving.
That's great. Great numbers. Congratulations on that as well. What would you say, as I've attended different workforce conferences, especially youth conferences, the topic comes up around identifying and engaging. You guys have done a great job with 97% completion rate. What would you say has been the key to your approach and success in identifying and engaging the youth that you serve?
Our the direct staff that works with the youth are called post-secondary advisors because everything you do after graduation is post-secondary. But they are just great, amazing people with unique stories. They relate to the students on a whole different, deeper level. We do a little bit of training on that, but a lot of that is just because they're good, solid people. We have one PA, Dr. Kira Carson. Dr. Kira Carson has her own consulting agency where she doesn't have to do this work, but she does it to stay connected to the youth. And having people like that on your staff that can connect and have experience and bring it to it is transformational to the young people. When she's talking, they're eating up everything she's saying. We have other staff members that are just bubbly personalities. They dress bright colors, just like we can connect. We also have people that, like myself, I have uncle vibes. I'm older, right? I'm not going to be cool, but I'm going to show up and they're going to look at me and say, hey, that's somebody that's been where I've been and they've got some experience with me. So really connecting with the youth is directly our PAs. And then we have a really good quality assurance team. So, when you're talking about grants and compliance, it's everything. Our quality assurance team, our data entry team, make sure all of our I's are dotted and T's crossed. And it makes my job easier. Not to say that, the role always comes with stress, but I appreciate the stress. I appreciate the opportunity. We just have a really strong team.
At this year's forum, I know there's been a focus on topics ranging from data, how we use data. In the information age of technology, AI, there's been a lot of different focuses within this year's event. And even the conversations I've had, people that have come out inspired by a workshop, a general session. What would be some highlights or some aha moments thus far from this year's forum for you?
Yeah, the whole technology and AI thing is interesting because I was at a conference last week in Philadelphia for college readiness, college bound conference. And a lot of the sessions were about AI. And I think it's a great thing to tap into, but AI is something you have to take time out to train and understand what you're doing. Even with our young people, I've seen them jump into ChatGPT, throw something in there, copy and paste, and put it out there without reading what it put in there. I was like, you got to know what's going on. For me, the aha moment was the kickoff, the general session, them talking about the training with the reentry. So when you're getting that training and getting results, people are being placed afterwards and they can be positive members of society, I think it's amazing, especially for non-violent crime. It's a whole other discussion I won't get into, probably a little bit too political, but putting somebody behind bars for 10 or 15 years and then they're released with nothing to do, I don't think that's going to be beneficial, right? So let's work on ways to get them to be those productive members of society. Just like in Columbus, employers are there everywhere. We need workers, we need workers, we need workers. But we can develop them. You just got to be willing to hire them and also invest in that process as an employer. Invest in the type of employee you want. That's what we're able to do and lead the way. We work with our employers. They sometimes fund free trainings or they will sponsor events and things for us in return for us building a workforce, but they tell us what type of workforce.
Great. lastly, the overall theme has been ignite, innovate, and impact. What do those words mean to you? And perhaps how do you see yourself taking that and fusing that into the work that your organization does?
Absolutely. The conference overall was definitely nice. Like I feel, fired up. I've got some information. Combining that with last week's conference, which is a whole different vein. This is focused on workforce, which we talked about college as part of workforce as well. But then the innovate piece, back in 2024, I was able to be honored by the Columbus Chamber of Commerce for the nonprofit visionary of the year. And with me, I'm all about vision, ideas, innovation. So there's some things I've seen other people doing, got their contact information, want to talk to them and see how that works and lead the way and see if it's something we can bring to our area. And then impact, everything we do is about impact. When we talk about the political climate and grant funding shrinking, our grants went up last year. And that's because of outcomes are directly tied to impact. And I think sometimes in the nonprofit space, people can get caught up in thinking that because of numbers, you're making it transactional, but it's still transformation because all of our outcomes are tied to student success. And so really framing that up and being comfortable with telling the story, telling the success stories and not looking at it as a transactional thing and really realizing it is transformational has helped us. And from this event, I think I'm going to come away with some opportunities. And again, when you've got an organization, you got to figure out which ones you can actually put into place and which ones actually work.
That's great. Well, thank you for coming here and telling your story and the story of your organization, the impact that you guys are already having. I look forward to keeping this connection with you and in future conferences and following the work that you guys are doing. Thank you, Anthony, for joining us here in the Hub.
Absolutely. You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Welcome back to KRA's The Hub podcast. This is the host, Jonathan Overall. We are here live in Las Vegas, Nevada at the 2026 NAWB Forum here at the Cosmopolitan. And it is day number 3. We've had a lot of great conversations so far at the conference. The theme has really brought a lot of excitement and passion to those that are here. And today I'm joined with a special guest, Anthony Gagliano. He is the Vice President and COO of CareerSource Suncoast from the sunny state of Florida. Anthony, welcome to the Hub.
Glad to be here, Jonathan. Yeah, but it's for the 2 counties just south of Tampa Bay, west coast of Florida. For almost 17 years now. It's been a lot of fun to get to connect with our peers across the country here.
Now, you've been to the forum before in Washington, D.C. This year, it's in Las Vegas for the first time. How's the experience been thus far for you?
It's great to see more of our West Coast colleagues like yourself out here and get to get those different ideas from people around the country and feel really energized by I want to take this back and figure out how we can make this work or expand on some of the things we're doing. Especially, we heard a lot around apprenticeship, and that's something that we've had focused for a while now, but how do we really get that to take off for the next year?
Now, you gave us a brief overview geographically of where you guys are. Share with us what's unique about the region from a workforce perspective.
I think we've got the great suburban. As we're working on a rural initiative now, so we even have the east part away from the water, but certainly we've got a lot of that great hospitality being right there on the Gulf opportunity, but also growing tech sector. I don't think people associate us with there, and just some great education opportunities. So I mean, it's just an amazing place to be. And for us, we're a team of 60 there. We're on the board, and so just all the different projects we get into, it's a really dynamic area.
Any initiatives or projects that you guys are currently underway that you would say would be a feature or a highlight of what the region has been able to accomplish?
Really excited. Obviously, April is National Apprenticeship Week coming up. So our surrounding regional partners, we're planning our first ever National Apprenticeship Week. Apprenticeship Works in Manatee County. So we're excited to have the 4 CareerSource boards around Tampa Bay there, be able to partner together and talk a little bit about what's going on in apprenticeship. In the state of Florida last year, there were 46 new registered apprenticeship programs, and every CareerSource board, there's 20 around the state of Florida, has a navigator. So 23 of those programs come from those navigators and 9 in our own region. So we're very much trying to get employers to see the value in that. And we hope that this event featuring our state president, CEO, Adrian Johnston, will really be able to shine a light on the value of apprenticeship and the area.
Yeah, it's great. I know apprenticeships has been one of the themes here at the conference, and the current administration has placed a focus on apprenticeships. And I really believe that a lot of those that I've talked to here are coming away with a renewed sense of clarity around ways to approach that. In your role in operations, what are some of the priorities or some of the things that you've come out of this conference or come into this conference looking to gain additional insight on?
Certainly just sat through an interesting session there on work requirements with Medicaid, so that's something that maybe we haven't had a lot of experience with, but again, obviously that ramping up on technology too. How do we embed that in more of the processes within, including apprenticeship? And so I think those are a lot of the things that we think about on a daily basis: efficient and effective service delivery, but also trying to be innovative. We've got a really robust entrepreneurship program. So we have a graduating class here. We think it's going to be our biggest ever. Over 40 people who've gone through this 10-week-long program on the basics on how do you start or grow your own small business. So we know that's another avenue for people when you think about work. It's maybe being your own boss. It's the best way to do that.
Now, you mentioned technology, efficiency, and AI has been a theme here at the conference. What is your approach to both of those areas, efficiency and using innovation and automation in your organization?
Sure. Right now, so out of our team of 60, we've got about 25 with Copilot license. Our IT director has been telling me how much he loves Claude Code, so be able to develop some of our own tools. We created our own referral platform called Crosswalk that we've shared with some of the other CareerSource regions around the state to be able to better interact with our other community partners. So when we have that client who walks in the door and needs help with clothes or food, we can send that referral through a secure platform and not have another case management system to be able to get them the service they need if we can't provide it directly.
In leadership, it can feel lonely, isolated. There's issues that come your way, carry the weight of leading an organization or division, department. How would you say environments like this, being around other leaders of other organizations, workforce boards, and workforce services companies, and just being in the room, having those conversations, how important is that to you?
I think it means a lot to be able to share and see the struggles and the success. Really, those for me of wow, I'm so jealous and proud of our counterparts, and I want to be able to see that too. But I think it's a real honor to be able to kind of have the title and be a leader. So it wasn't something maybe I aspired to when I started 17 years ago, but just the passion that our team has and getting to share all the amazing things that they're working on really invigorates me. And so it's something I've chosen. I remind myself I choose this every day.
Now, it's great to talk to you, somebody on day 3, because you've had a chance to sit through different sessions, general, some of the plenary sessions over the last couple of days, panels, as well as some of the workshops. Have there been any highlights, aha moments that you've walked away from in some of those sessions?
I really like to talk on philanthropy. So we've been fortunate to work with lots of our different partners around there. Again, I appreciate we had Credit Union on give us some funds last year to help by those tools and support services for those apprentices. And we're working with the Patterson Foundation in our area around a digital navigator. So they help provide training for us to be able to help get that access to individuals in our community who need help getting a laptop or a computer at home, sort of thing. So we've got some really great partners on that philanthropy side. And so we're always looking for more opportunities on how can we bring in more resources to the organization, then help our clients get access to the services and the training they need.
That's great. The theme this year has been ignite, innovate, and impact. When you think about those words, how it's been presented at the forum this year, and perhaps how that relates to your work and maybe what you want to walk away with, what does that mean to you?
Impact was definitely a word. We look at my LinkedIn page that for me, 2026 was all about, making an impact. We're coming into our summer here. I love our summer youth program. We got 117 kids go through 4 weeks of, paid work experience with us last year. And I think about teams like Mackenzie, she came back last year. And so she worked 1 year in a senior living facility and next year in childcare. And now she's telling us, maybe I'd like to get a psychology degree, after I graduate high school and move on. So just that ability to have, that impact on young adults in our area, but even adults, with scholarships that we're able to provide to individuals. So, last summer in Florida, my AC went out and we really needed help immediately. And so the technician comes out and I'm looking at him like, I know you, Omar. You went through the technical college on a scholarship, through WIOA. And so, the ability to see people in our community benefiting from the work we do is amazing.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that's come up, seeing the end result and how we can tell the narrative of the impact that we've had. Well, Anthony, I want to thank you for joining us here in the hub and sharing your insights, your experiences, and giving us some greater insight as to what is happening in your region of Florida. Any final thoughts for our audience today?
Just say that appreciate, the forum and everybody at NAWB being able to do this. Fun to be on the podcast as youth there and hearing all the great stories going on in workforce. So keep listening.
Awesome. How can people find out more about your region and your work? Is there a website, social media?
Check us out at CareerSourceSuncoast.com. Find me on LinkedIn, Anthony Gagliano. We love to be able to talk work going on in the CareerSource Florida Network. Apprenticeship Works is our event for National Apprenticeship Week. So forward to hopefully talking again sometime soon.
Sounds great. Look forward to seeing you next time.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to KRA's The Hub. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. To learn more about KRA Corporation, visit www.kra.com. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll be back soon with a new episode.